Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever in the world you might be. I am Nicole BC, and you know everything. Hey, hi, hello. I'm really excited to be back. It's been a minute since I've gotten to record some content. If you have been paying any attention at all, you know I've been traveling lots. Got some new, really exciting projects that I'm working on for something different. I say that rolling my eyes. And for anybody watching, firstly, new set, who dis? But secondly, I don't know what's going on with my hair. It is living its own life right now. And because of all the travel, my stylist, I had to cancel an appointment. And they were like, yeah, cool. My next availability is in 2 months. So that is one of the challenges when you work with the best of the best, right? And it's funny, I just started jibber jabbering with that story, but it was really disappointing. And I have to own that. It's my own scheduling and also working with really great people that sometimes create some more difficulty for myself. And I get disappointed. I like everything to fit into its proper place, and I like having a plan, and as much as plans are meant to be broken, if you know, you know. But yeah, it's a pain in the butt trying to keep this mane tamed. And it's kind of what I wanted to talk about today. I mean, what I really wanted to talk about was disappointment. And as visionaries, as trailblazers, as people who see the world being a certain way, yet having to close the gap with the way it is, turning our reality into our dreams, we often experience disappointment. And this can be especially crushing for leaders, for the rebels and rule breakers out there, just like you and me, who are doing our damnedest to turn our dreams into reality, to close that gap of what is and what we want. Now, I see this play out over and over and over again when people really start putting their walls up and they start protecting themselves and they start taking on everything because they are tired of being disappointed. They stop asking for help because they're tired of being let down. And in fact, it's not even a matter of being tired. It's like, how many times can your heart get broken before you just give up on the hope that someone out there sees you, values you, and understands you? And this is where so many people actually create a situation that makes it very, very challenging for themselves. I would never want to say impossible until we actually learn how to work with the resources around us, whether it's people, whether it's the tools and skills, whether it's the time or money that we have. Like, it's our experience will bottleneck with us, as in we are the constricting point. We are the thing that is disallowing the flow and the ease because we're so busy trying to protect ourselves from getting hurt. We don't allow ourselves to see new opportunities and potentially really creative solutions to what feels like the impossible thing that we're dealing with. I wanted to let you know you should stick around, because what I firstly want to do is just really talk about this concept and this experience of disappointment, and how when we simply reframe, when we stop the madness, stop the blame and the shame game, whether it's ourselves or the situations around us, we're going to start to experience a change. Then from there, when we can start to see that and recognize it for what it is, our success, and actually celebrate it, no matter how small or insignificant it might seem, we actually train ourselves, just like at the gym, just like lifting heavier weights, but we train ourselves to be able to then take bigger steps and eventually leaps and bigger risks, and therefore playing a much more rewarding game. And lastly, I'm going to talk about how you can transform your actual world when we operate from this place where we release disappointment because we simply recognize it as a gap in expectations. We're not white knuckling the outcome. We're not super attached to what happens. We're really clear on what it is that we're doing and why, and how we know we've been successful. You're actually going to impact everything around you, because what you're doing is building a more transparent and therefore equitable world. And you can do that in your life and in your work. So big stuff today. At one point I was like, we're just going to record a couple quick episodes. And then I was looking at the notes that I have and I was like, we're tackling a lot here. So I hope that you stick with me. I would love to know your thoughts, any questions that you've got, any comments that you'd like to make. I know Spotify is now allowing people to actually comment on individual episodes. So whether you're watching this on your favorite video platform or you're listening to this on your favorite podcasting platform, I would love for you to interact with me. Whether you share this episode with you think somebody whom you think needs it, or you just comment and share some thoughts, or maybe email me hello@NicoleBZ.com and just let me know what you think. So this is meant to kind of be a very weird, one-sided, but open dialogue. So thank you for being here. Okay, so let's dive in. Disappointment can feel like a gut punch. It can get you when you were least expecting it. And it feels like all of the oxygen just got sucked out of you. And sometimes it's even impossible to take that next breath. And it feels like you're dying. I've noticed that with my people, disappointment is such a visceral experience because you are attempting, firstly, to do your best, but create the best situation for everybody in your experience. You really are showing up to create the win-win-win. And so when someone second guesses you, when someone lets you down, when someone reneges on a commitment or a promise, like it's personal, right? And also, we're going to challenge some of those initial reactions and narratives, because if that is the perspective from which you are operating, it's going to be, like I said at the beginning, really challenging. That emotional experience is compounding, right? The story, the narrative that we tell ourselves about what's happening can disallow you from seeing any creative solution, any innovation that might not just triage and address this immediate issue, but actually solve all other like-minded sort of case studies in relation to this, where you've noticed this pattern, right? I want you to actually just take a moment to think about the last time you faced a major disappointment. What was your immediate reaction? This would be a perfect thing to comment on, whether it's below or on the episode. Research from Stanford University suggests that leaders who approach failures, disappointment, heartbreak, I shoulda, woulda, coulda, right? But when they can approach this from a mindset of, what am I able to learn from here? What can I discover? They stop blaming and they actually foster more creativity and resilience in their own lives, their own experiences, their own organizations. Let's break down this research and see how we can apply this to you. Overcoming the heartbreak of disappointment, which means you stop beating yourself up, you stop blaming yourself, you stop beating up or blaming the world around you, and you just ask yourself, okay, there was a gap here. I thought one thing was going to happen and something else occurred. Why? What's the story I'm telling about me? So I'm just going to give you a silly example only because I was just discussing it today with a client. Thank you for the the material. But an employee was running late to work. They messaged my client, asked if they could get an Uber to work. And the immediate assumption was, oh gosh, this person's going to be late. And now they're asking me to pay for the Uber. And I read back through the communications and I was like, they didn't ask that at all. I think they're just letting you know, like, they've had to course correct in their day. And my gut says they're freaking out about it because they can't get to their car and that's a problem, right? Now you're kind of reading into this situation and making it about you. This person's going to let you down and now they're asking you for extra help. Maybe, or maybe they're totally on track. They're just updating you on what's going to happen. My gut was right. And it was a really quick check-in for my client because they're just so used to being disappointed, right? They're so used to being let down. They immediately went there, but that wasn't the scenario at all. In fact, this employee was just over communicating and trying to be really helpful. And also I think like kind of being very reactive, you know, the way that they were communicating felt urgent. So then my client did pick up on that. And this is all that I mean, that like sometimes it's just a simple misunderstanding or it's not a problem at all. So this is where we start to ask ourselves, what is it that we're really after here? I just want to know this person's going to be on time. That's the question that you ask then. Are you going to be late or are you just letting me know what's happening? Are you asking me to pay for this? Those direct questions, when coming from a place of curiosity, are going to give you a hell of a lot more information than making an assumption and then operating from that emotional reactivity that, oh, fuck, here we go again, right? As we kind of dig into what's really going on here, why am I experiencing disappointment repeatedly? Think about how these different perspectives, and these eventually we'll get to a few different things that you can play with in terms of tactical strategies, how they might actually apply to you. Okay. So let me just remind you, my friend, a lot has happened that has gone exceedingly well. And in fact, you have a lot of success. You have a lot of evidence for success under your belt that you can reflect back upon. And we very easily forget that when something really disappointing happens. We kind of catastrophize the situation and perhaps make it the only thing that's ever happened. But here's the other part about that research. And this is based on a couple different theories, whether it's goal setting theories. There's, oh gosh, I'm like looking at my notes and I can't remember the name of the researcher that came up with this. When we celebrate our successes, every baby step we take along the way in this journey, what we show ourselves, our brain, our ego, our mind, our emotional and spiritual selves is, I believe in you. I see you. I validate you. When you've got your own back, when you are fixated upon proving to yourself, I got you, I am going to keep you safe and secure, and we can take one more step, you will be able to increase the effectiveness and the belief in your own journey. You will make bigger stretches and take on more risk because you believe no matter what, I'm going to be okay. Even if this scares the shit out of me, I can still take one more step. That's why we celebrate. It's not because like treat yourself, right? It's not because we're trying to create this false sense of joy or reward. I was reminding a client who had a massive week and raised millions of dollars. Like, you get to celebrate. And he's like, oh, on the weekend, it's going to be fine. And I was like, just put one hand on your heart. In fact, let's all do that together right now. Just put one hand on your heart and thank yourself for giving you the few moments that we're sharing together here, because this is a commitment to your success. This is a commitment to the growth and the development you are invested in, and you are proving that. And listening to a podcast, watching this on YouTube might feel like a distraction. You're still giving yourself this moment. And that is something to absolutely see and validate, and experience the feelings of how this shows up for you. I talk a lot about like the frequency of a feeling, but what I'm hoping you're doing in that moment is actually identifying how this feels for you. So would you take the next 10 seconds to just feel you here? What is it? Name it. Thank you. I would love for you to comment on that. Throw it in there. How did you label that gratitude or appreciation or celebration of your success? This is something I've gone on and on a lot about, but as I'm evolving this perspective even further, what I'm noticing is that while celebrating, it also helps you detach from the specific outcome. So, I'm recording this just as an example for a reason, for a purpose, right? And it could be really easy for me to think, well, I need X amount of people to listen to this, or I need Y amount of downloads, or I need to make sure that people are watching for a certain amount of time. Those are pretty obvious metrics for success. But the reality is I live and breathe this shit. I spend hours every day just giving my time to my peers and my people, because it feels fucking good for me to be in service and to help. And I recognize I have this ability to workshop a scenario and allow someone to see the solution they hadn't yet unearthed. And I can do that fairly effectively, but also efficiently. Like it's quick for me. And this allows me to do that exponentially. And it's a fantastic use of my time. It gives me this opportunity to really pull together and coalesce a lot of the ideas and threads that I've been kind of pulling upon over the last few weeks since we've gotten to chat. And that's the feeling that I'm aiming for, is this sense of accomplishment, this sense of connection. And when I tune into that and then I create, it's powerful. And that is not about how many of you were listening or how many downloads I got this week. And I think this is where, although, my having the best podcast out there could be defined as such, it might also mean I think I'm making some really impactful art that I can be really proud of and that I can tune back into and go, God damn, PC, those were some cool, albeit rambling ideas. So when we understand that frequency of success, that frequency of reward in ourselves, and we truly allow ourselves to feel it, we start to train our brains to recognize that the true reward is in the challenge, not so much the pause at the end. And for anybody out there who qualifies themselves as an entrepreneur or a creative, as well as I do, when we get to the end, we actually kind of freak out and then think about 18 other things we could be doing in that moment. So it is absolutely crucial to celebrate, not just because we're like big upping ourselves and, like giving us an excuse to go get a massage, but because it helps us clarify our why and our purpose. And that is truly how we're going to be able to keep going and how we're going to build upon and how we're going to transform realities into dreams without experiencing that heartbreaking disappointment over and over again. And I'm going to share another example here, just because, my own podcast metrics might not have done it for you, but often we have an income goal. Maybe it's sales, maybe it's top line revenue, maybe it's just one proof of concept in terms of a new product or service or even, job that we're trying to land. And that income is connecting us to something. It's never about the money. And there are so many reasons why that is true. But if you look at your relationships and your connections, I can almost guarantee you that the things that are most meaningful to you are probably unrelated to the financial amount altogether. And what happens is we lose sight of what we believe that number will say about us or give us access to or provide us with the opportunity to experience. And it's not even so much about, well, if I have this much money, then I can do all the travel that I want, or I'd be able to take care of a parent or a loved one, or I'd be able to feel a sense of security and reliability that I feel like I've never had access to. All of those things are true. But again, we need to dig a little bit deeper and go, why? And so in each one of those instances, there's probably a certain level of access and a certain level of security. With that security comes this experience of joy, of ease, of presence. We can truly feel success or peace or bliss when we have a certain amount of freedom. And with that freedom comes the choice to be able to ... That's the frequency that I'm talking about. It's not that we want to make 10K a month or 100K a month. It's that once we have that, then we can. And when we can, we will feel like. And that's what I mean when I say choose that feeling before taking any action. When you truly understand what it is you're trying to create for yourself, which is ultimately a feeling, an experience. And for a lot of my people, we're really great at describing the scenario. We can detail it. But we're not so good at identifying how that's going to feel for us. And I think I've talked a little bit about this. This is something I've absolutely been cultivating in myself, very focused for the last, I would say, 6 months. Those 6 months have been hard. But even in the disappointment, in the failure, in the fuck ups, I can still find some joy, some sense of agency and empowerment. And those are things that I'm constantly trying and working towards. So although the situation might be really disappointing or the person might have been really disappointing, I can still go, hold up. Those are external from myself. I get to be in control of my own experience. And how can I find just 1 ounce of joy or freedom in this moment? Because that's how I'm going to transform it, not from the place of disappointment and heartbreak and failure and fear, but from this place of joy and hope and faith that despite what's happening around me, I still get to choose how I feel in this. Okay, I'm going to get off my soapbox now before I shift gears entirely, because we're going to start really talking about how this shows up in your day-to-day. But when you believe in you, everything else around you and everyone else will reflect that back. And you do that again by reinforcing these feelings of success, peace, joy, whatever your end game is. when you believe I get to do this, I'm in charge, and I set this tone despite anything else happening, you evolve to a place where you stop explaining yourself. You stop justifying it. You're able to ask for your needs, but from such a clear and calm expectation of this is just what happens because this is what I want. It will affect everyone around you because they stop needing proof. They stop expecting an explanation because they aren't owed anything. And you hear people talk about you deserve it simply because you want it. And I've been personally really struggling with this concept of deserving. And recently I had this realization that it's not because I deserve it, it's because everybody deserves it. We all deserve to feel the way we want to feel. And that is not like privileged. That is not anything that needs data or research or, again, justification. It just is. And that's where we get to really explore our wants and not just our needs, because we deserve to feel the way we want to feel. And like, it's pretty fucking simple, actually. It doesn't need to have a whole bunch of like gobbledygook around it. So why does all of this matter? How do we do this in our day-to-day lives? What's the fucking point? And I want everybody to take themselves seriously, to take their dreams seriously. That's how I define business. It's by actually investing in your dreams and taking it seriously. I also am deeply invested in creating a fair and equitable and just experience. And I get that like life's not fair, right? I'm well the fuck aware of that. And also, it's going to show up differently for each of us. And I think it starts in each of us. And so by being very transparent about my needs, my wants, my desires, by owning the feelings that I value and I want to see more of in the world, by investing in me, I am investing in you. By creating a fair and equitable and transparent experience in myself, that is naturally going to be reflected in my businesses, in my work, in my relationships, in everything that I build and create, right? And so this is where I start to play with this idea that you get to create your own reality. It's by getting clear and by being real. Like, that is something that so many of us really struggle with because of this disappointment. When we're real, when we ask for what we want and it doesn't happen, it's heartbreaking. And can you tell I'm playing with the both and a lot here? It's a new skill. It is a trust muscle that we are building. And I think when we are honest and we truly ask for what we want and we're vulnerable and recognize we might not get it and we're going to be okay, that expands this capacity for disappointment. And this is where we release attachment to the outcome. Just because it didn't go the way I wanted it to doesn't mean there's a problem. I'm telling myself there's a problem. And I actually challenge a lot of my clients with this. Just because you're delegating and you're hiring someone and they're not doing it exactly the same way that you would doesn't mean it's worse. It's just different. And it might be better in some regards. Firstly, think about where you might have told a little white lie, where you might not have told the whole truth. When somebody asked you to do something or asked you what you thought, you weren't wholly honest because you were afraid of how they would respond to your answer. That's also where you're going to have an opportunity to hold yourself to a higher standard. And do you need to be mean? Absolutely not. But where are you over-explaining yourself, or where are you justifying your own experience because you're monitoring it or limiting you to make everybody else more comfortable? Ooh, I know, scary shit, right? So if you are building your business, if you want less disappointment, Recognize where you are expecting disappointment, whether it's in yourself or in others, and how you are adapting and ultimately manipulating the situation. I'm a big believer, and I'm going to give an example here, in the fact that people talk. People are going to share information. We're always trying to learn. Your employees are going to talk about their salaries. People are going to talk about raises. You're going to get on the internet and look at comps and see what industries are paying. And you're probably going to advocate for yourself, or your people are going to advocate for themselves. And that can create a gap, right? And an expected and desired outcome and the existing reality. We have an opportunity as people who are asking these questions and doing their very best to create this new world that I constantly go on about, and these new world businesses. We have an opportunity to create that transparency. And I work with people a lot on this because there can feel like this animosity and this distrust between an employer and an employee. And that was 1000% accurate in the old world way of doing things, right? But as you step into your leadership, as you start investing in your own future and the futures of those around you and those that are supporting you and those that you're going to need to ask for help, this is where you can really start to ask yourself, okay, where have I potentially been misleading with myself, with others? Where am I setting someone up for failure? Where do I have metrics for success that I haven't made abundantly clear because I am testing my reality, which comes from a place of doubt. I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop. I'm waiting for this person to fuck up. So I'm not being totally transparent in my expectations because I don't want to get hurt again. And in fact, if I was just very crystal clear on how I want this to look, when I want it to look like that, and how I know I'm going to be successful, we would all have a much different opportunity here. And the chances for success would actually be much higher. Also, this might not be the right fit. This might not work out. And can I be okay with this new level of honesty and therefore vulnerability, knowing that by giving everybody the opportunity to set up and actually see what I see and clarifying what I'm saying to make sure that I feel understood and they understand me, then we have real accountability. Then we have real measurability, and things might not be up to par in this moment. Can we create the space and the opportunity and the resilience to actually get there? So these are bigger, harder, kind of more scarier questions, right? And you know that because it feels vulnerable. If it's scaring you, I guess it's the trade-off, right? Between like, can I be scared up front rather than disappointed on the end of it? You know, I also talk a lot about like plans are targets, right? Or goals are targets. And we create them kind of knowing that we're going to need to adapt them in order to be successful. And also, no one ever freaking does that. They make a plan, they make a schedule, they have a timeline, they do project management. We get to the end of it and we're like, well, that didn't go according to, because in real time, it needs to be adapted to what is happening. I was talking with a CFO who kept asking me for deadlines and guarantees in terms of how things are going to occur with sales and with investments. And I ultimately just kind of had to blink at him and go, okay, cool. I will get you that. And also it will be as accurate as it is in the moment. And I'll probably update it weekly. But if you're looking for a guarantee, it doesn't exist. If you're looking for someone to do a bunch of busy works to create some security that you need, okay, cool. I'll bill you a lot to create that for you. That's the transparency that I mean. And yeah, I wish it were received as cleanly as I hope to communicate it, but I can't be in charge of that person's experience. And an older version of me would have been like, this guy's going to think I'm a flake, or I'm mouthing off, or I'm being difficult, or I'm a fucking, opinionated woman. Okay. And I would much rather manage expectations and be really clear about what's happening so that I feel empowered to do my best job than make somebody else happy, because I can't do that anyway, right? Why is this important? Why does all of this matter? In this new world business building, I talk a lot about leaders get to lead. And actually, I'm going to have an episode coming out called Think Like a Boss, but leading by example means we get to see our disappointment for what it is, which is just a gap. And then we get to ask ourselves, how willing are we to close this? Would we rather be right? Or would we rather be a visionary and continue to travel this journey knowing that our desired destination is a better and more magical place than we could ever possibly imagine? And we don't know how to get there because no one's ever gotten there before. That's the catch-22 of being a visionary and a trailblazer and a rebel and a rule breaker and a disruptor and a creative and an artist is you're continually creating things that haven't existed before. There is no map. You are going to be disappointed. Okay? Yep, said it. And you're also going to be okay. The question is how do you close that gap of feeling that disappointment and then getting to the place of resolve and hope and faith and getting right back on track again? And so I hope that this episode was able to help you understand a couple different ways of thinking about that, of where you can really challenge yourself, where you can grow. If this episode did resonate with you, I encourage you to listen to the Energy Leadership series that I just put out. This really walks you through the foundation for my coaching, but the thing that I work with every day, all day on, and it helps give you a very simple framework that you can apply to your reality, to your business, to your relationships, to your communication, to your finances, to everything, truly, and create much better results, but with way less stress and struggles. That's what I'm always about. And if this also potentially hit a nerve, pushed a button, is leaving you feeling like more disappointed than hopeful, check out an episode called The Secret to Success. That is a deeper dive into how you can create a methodology for your success. It's never for me to tell you, you know everything. And that episode, I hope, will shed some light on some different approaches so that you feel empowered and successful and able to create everything that you dream of. So thank you so much for joining me. I think we did it. I think we got it done. I love you.